Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Sora's cameo. And it's done. And we're going to go back to the roots of the game today with Cabal playing Avengers for an 18 threat. Should be a pretty messy, bloody, big fight in the middle one based on the objectives that have already been drawn, but we'll go over that more in a second. The X-Men releases are coming. They're on the painting table. They're on the to-do list, but they're not going to be done immediately. So it felt like a fun idea to go back to the two affiliations in the core box, the Cabal and the Avengers, but also mix in some of the newer releases and see how they perform based against how the core box teams did. But enough about that, let's look at the teams and get started. So this is the Cabal team being led by Red Skull. We have Ultron, we have Bullseye because I guess they paid his contract fee, we have Baron Zemo, and we have Enchantress, just throwing in a wild card there. And the tactics cards they are using is Cosmic Invigoration, the Age of Ultron, Medpack, Brace for Impact, and Reversal. And this is your Avengers team being led by Captain America. Hawkeye is there, we have Captain Marvel, we have Ant-Man, and Bring Your Kid to Work Day Ant-Man, and then as a guest star this week we have Daredevil. And their cards, with a little bit of glare unfortunately, we have Second Wind, we have Avengers Assemble, we have Pym Particles, we have No Escape, and we have Acute Senses. So you've probably already seen the icons on the map, but just to be clear, our secure mission today is of course Gamma Wave Sweep across the Midwest. I don't know, it's one of my favourite missions, the Gamma one, because it forces a big fight in the middle. And it's 1 for your closest Gamma shelter if you're holding it, 2 for the middle, and 3 for the furthest away. And then the Extraction, which is the threat value being played. Fear Grips the World is Worthy Terrorized Citizens, so that's the Celestial Hammers on the map, 1 victory point for each hammer being held. It also gives you +1 attack die when you have the hammer, or for each hammer you can hold multiple. But it also means that any team tactics card you play as part of someone who has a hammer, the cost goes up by 1. Presumably for the new X-Men cards that are free, that would put them from free to 1, but I'm not sure. Hopefully we won't need to worry about that until later. But yeah, we've got the setup already done. The 3 Gamma Showers and 4 hammers. The hammers at these 2 Gamma Showers should technically be on top of the Gamma Shower. They're getting picked up turn 1 no matter what happens. There's the other one over there. So they're just beside it just so it's easy to see where they all are. Alright, we'll roll off, see who's deploying on which side and be back at deployment. So both teams are set up and it will be the Avengers who will be going first because they won the roll off and they decided to deploy on your left. And that means the Cabal is on the right. So we have Bullseye off on his lonesome, we have Enchantress, Red Skull and Ultron, and then over here we have Baron Zemo. And if we come over here, Captain Marvel slightly by herself, Ant-Man, Hawkeye and Captain America ready to go up the middle, and then over here is Daredevil. So with that, let's jump straight in. Daredevil got the game started by moving long 1.5 actions to get him close enough to the hammer that was over there. He spent his starting power on it and has picked it up, and that does mean he's obviously not safe within range of a Gamma Shower, so he is taking damage guaranteed at the end of the turn. And not to be outdone by Daredevil, Bullseye activated first for the Cabal. He medium moved twice to get over to this hammer and has secured that hammer as well. And again, same thing applies, he's not within shelter of a Gamma Shower, so he's taking 1 damage guaranteed at the end of the turn. Captain Marvel was next up and she can fly, so she can just kind of hop over the scenery, but she medium moved and opted to go after the central Gamma shelter now that that hammer has been stolen by Bullseye, because she'd have to medium move just to get up to him, so she couldn't attack him this turn anyway. Might as well try and secure the middle, and then still could potentially via flying go after him next time. Red Skull was next up for the Cabal, and first of all he tapped the cube for power, 3 power, he rolled 5 dice, any skulls and he takes damage. Sadly he did roll a skull, so he's taking 1 damage. He then immediately spent that 3 power on an action to send someone within 4-2, so he sent Enchantress forwards 2 just to give her a bit of extra distance. Then he, for his other actual action, because tapping the cube is an action, he moved up to the shower and is just staying there. He did not pick up the hammer, he is saving that for either Ultron or Enchantress. So Ant-Man was the next activate, and this is a fun example of just how much distance he can clear despite movement limitations. So he started here, he spent his 1 power to shrink, so you place him within 1 in his small form, so he was roughly there. Then in his small form he can do a once per turn free movement, which is range 3, which put him roughly there. Neither of these things count as an action. So then he moved small in small form to put himself almost point blank to bullseye there. And then he did bullet-sized punch or ant-sized punch, whatever his one attack is when he's small. It's a 6 physical. He did it on bullseye. It only did 1 damage, but then you also revert back to normal size, which is another within 1. So he's now base to base with bullseye. Bearing down on him, he's not safe, but he's going straight after him. Only 1 damage is a little disappointing, but that also didn't give bullseye enough power to run away and attack. So Enchantress activated and she had a busy turn. She spent one of her 2 power, because she's an Asgardian, to pick up the hammer. She moved medium for her first action to move there. She then did a spurned affection, which is her base attack. It's a energy beam. Captain Marvel was not the ideal target because she absorbs energy if she rolls wilds on her defense, and she actually rolled 2, so she generated herself 2 power. She still did 2 damage from it though, and Siren generates 1 just from doing the attack. So then she spent 2 power on Siren's call to convince Captain Marvel to walk away from safety. She might be within 2 of that one to get the protect against the gamma waves, but she's obviously not close to be securing either of them for the purposes of scoring. Hawkeye was next up, and this is the perfect scenario for Hawkeye, honestly, which is no wonder why everyone uses him. He moved up, he spent 1 to pick up the hammer that was there, he's securing his back line, double checked, and Captain Marvel is within 2 of this one, so she's not going to take damage at the end of a turn, because it was considered to move her with Avengers Assemble, but there's no need because she's safe. So anyway, with the power of the hammer in tow, Hawkeye fired his arrow quiver, his quiver of arrows, that's the way to say it, at Enchantress. Now she gets to use her Mystic Defense, which is 5, against anything that attacks her, unless you spend 2 power, which is obviously too rich for Hawkeye's blood on turn 1. But that said, he actually managed to do 3 damage, which is pretty impressive, and he had a wild, so Enchantress is also bleeding. Pretty good. Ultron activated, and in order to help secure the middle shelter, he had to double move, so he's not doing anything else with his turn. But with him and Enchantress still standing, it's incredibly unlikely Cap, who's the last to go for the Avengers, will daze Enchantress, so there's no point rushing the middle. That is going to be Cabal controlled this turn. So it's the right bet, I think, making Ultron do nothing. And Baron Zemo still has to go as well, so it's not like their turn's over. Although, being all the way back in the corner over there, not sure what he's going to do. But either way, Ultron has moved up. So Captain America's had his turn, and it was pretty much incredible, to the point where there's these kind of situations where I wish the dice rolls were on camera to prove that they happened. He moved up, so he's here. He threw his shield at Ultron, and no, your eyes do not deceive you, a 4 physical attack got through for 4 damage. There was 2 crits in the initial roll. Ultron rolled Bupkis for his defense, which is 4 physical defense, and there was a wild in there as well, so it ricocheted into Enchantress, and it did 4 damage to her as well. There was also 2 crits, and she also failed to defend a single successful time on 5 dice. It was not forgotten that he used her Mystic Defense. 5 dice, none of them were successes. Cap just did 8 damage with a shield throw. He only needed to do 3, so Enchantress is dazed on turn 1. The hammer's been dropped there. I mean, Ultron is still controlling the point, but that is the most damage I've ever seen that attack do. It's incredible. I don't know what Baron Zemo was going to do to end the turn off, but he's got a lot to top. So Baron Zemo didn't exactly have a super heroic turn, but he had a turn he had to do to get in some early points after that embarrassment for Ultron and Enchantress. He double moved long. Enchantress doesn't count as being there, so he can just walk through her. Came around the corner and secured the middle, and then also spent his 1 power to pick up the hammer that Enchantress dropped. So that does take us to the end of Battle Round 1. We'll do the scoring in a second, but obviously Ant-Man, Bullseye, and Daredevil over there, they all take 1 damage from not being safe inside a gamma shelter. So at the end of Battle Round 1, despite the incredible play by Captain America with his shield just doing a ridiculous amount of damage, it didn't help the score. The score is still the Cabal ahead. The Avengers have 2 hammers, the Cabal have 2 hammers, so that's obviously 2 points each. But the Avengers are only holding their home shelter for 1, whereas the Cabal are holding their home shelter for 1 and the center for 2. Meaning, as we go into Battle Round 2, the Avengers are still going first, but 6 is playing 3 in favour of the Cabal. So Hawkeye is getting Battle Round 2 started for the Avengers, but first of all, Second Wind was played, so any Avengers can spend 1 to play this card. Although I just realised, Avengers, is Captain Marvel on the Avengers affiliation? I hope she is, because she spent 1 to heal herself, and so did Ant-Man, and Ant-Man definitely has been patched in on the updated affiliation list online. I'll double check Captain Marvel to make sure that's correct. I think it is. Daredevil couldn't heal himself though because he's holding a hammer, so he'd have to spend 2 power, and also he's not an Avenger, and it does specify Avengers, not just people in the group. So anyway, Hawkeye activated. He didn't have as much luck as last time, but he stood still and fired 2 arrow shots. The first one was blocked by Enchantress's Mystic Defense. The second one got through for 4 damage, leaving her on 1 health, I believe. And also there was a wild, so I don't know if you can quite see that. There, she's also bleeding, so that means she's basically got 1 action unless she's willing to go down. She's sitting on 10 power, so this is her chance to make them pay before she goes. This is just bully Enchantress. So obviously Enchantress activated, so she actually gets a turn in this game. She used a medkit, and she spent 2 to heal herself for 3, so that puts her back pretty healthy on her wounded side. She then used Hell Hath No Fury to pick up one of the boulders that were there, hawked it at Captain Marvel, who successfully dodged the size 2 boulder. So then she cleared her bleed for one of her actual actions, and then had no choice but to use her other to retreat. So she has fallen back to guard the end Gamma Shower there. Red Skull can move forwards now instead. But yeah, Enchantress has not had a fair shake of things this match. So Ant-Man was next to activate, and the Avengers dice rolls today have just been on fire. He did his basic normal sized man attack, which is just 4 physical. It did 4 damage, it only needed to do 3. Bullseye is dazed, he didn't get a chance to retaliate as a result. He dropped his hammer, Ant-Man picked it up. You don't have to turn into small Ant-Man after doing your basic attack, it says it's optional. So then for his other actual action, he moved medium, because he moves medium when he's regular sized man, to there, and then Avengers Assemble got played. He's the only one who did it. It would normally be 1. He had to spend 2 because he's holding a hammer now to move small, just so he's close enough to get protected by that Gamma Shower and his friends, who are hopefully going to protect him against the angry people who want to get vengeance. Red Skull activated and had to double move to get close enough to help control the central Gamma Shower. One move would have got him close enough to be safe in it, but they want to secure this to stay ahead in points because they ain't winning this fight in terms of punches so far. Oh, and also earlier when Enchantress was getting bullied by Hawkeye, it was the perfect opportunity for Ultron to pay the power to use reversal. Too late now to go back, but that would have been a perfect play to do that. It would have dealt quite a bit of damage to Hawkeye, and Hawkeye is quite squishy. It was missed. It would definitely have made a difference, I feel, because Hawkeye would... It wouldn't kill him because I think at most it can do 3 damage, but it would put him close. But yeah, that was a missed opportunity for a good tactics card use. Captain Marvel was the next to activate, and she stayed where she was. She spent 5 power down to 4 to use binary form, and that's the first time this match that a day unlike any other Avengers affiliation bonus from Cap has actually done anything, because for Ant-Man changing size is 1 power and it goes to a minimum of 1, and no one else has done a superpower yet. So yeah, she spent 4 to binary form, which gives her 2 extra attack dice, so her energy blast becomes a 6 energy. She did 2 of them on Baron Zemo to try and get that hammer off of him. The first one did 4, and yes, I don't know what it is, but the Avengers just love doing 4 damage this match, and it's scary. She did 4 damage with the first one. Her attack roll for the second one had no successes in it, so that kind of made up for it. So he's just sitting on a lot of power, he is close to death. She stayed where she was, and now it's over to the Cabal. Oh, before we cover the next activation, almost missed it again. There was a perfect opportunity to play reversal, so the Cabal did. Ultron did specifically, which is ironic. Actually no, it's not ironic because he's the one initiating it on Vision in that picture. After an attack targeting an allied character is resolved, another allied character within 3 of the attacking character, he is within 3 of Captain Marvel, may spend 2 to play this card, roll 4 dice, deal 1 damage for each crit or wild. There's the roll. It was remembered, but it did nothing. Baron Zemo was next up for the Cabal, and he did something that you might not have expected. He retreated, but deliberately in a way where he is going to die at the end of the turn. He is not safe within that Gamma Shower at the back there. He is 1 hit away from death. Or sorry, from dazing, I should say, not death. So when it rolls over to the power phase, he's going down, or at the end of the turn, whenever the Gamma Waves happen, he's going down and dropping it. The Cabal are going to get first turn next turn, so it seemed the safest way to guarantee that one of the Cabal will pick up the hammer and not an Avenger, like if he did a suicide attack into that clump of them with Captain America and Daredevil still to go. Speaking of which, it's over to one of them, and then back over to Ultron to end the Cabal's second turn. So Captain America activated, and all he did for his turn was 2 shield throws, and targeted Ultron with both of them. The first one had no wild, it did 1 damage to him. Second one did have a wild, also did 1 damage, which was enough to daze him. So Ultron is not getting an activation. He didn't have a hammer or anything, but he is dazed. The ricochet bounced into Red Skull, who just shrugged it off. He took no damage. So it is over to Daredevil to end the second battle round. So let it never be said that Daredevil isn't smart. He long moved twice for his activation. He was roughly there. He moved to there. He moves in an L shape to there, and that is within 1. He is healthy, Enchantress is not, so he is counting as controlling the back gamma shelter, and that is a nasty little trick he just did. Nobody is taking damage from a gamma shelter, because, oh sorry, Baron Zemo is. It happens at the cleanup phase, so it just happened. He's going to drop his hammer within 2, and flip his card as well as everyone else's days, so Ultron and Bullseye. And yeah, we'll be back with the scoring for round 2. So at the end of battle round 2, the Avengers have turned around the scoring. They didn't need to turn around the fighting. They're stomping just because of how badly the dice have been in their favour so far. But the Avengers have 3 of the 4 hammers for 3 victory points. They hold their own gamma shelter for 1. They hold the far one for 3, taking them to 10 victory points. The Cabal, on the other hand, Baron Zemo dropped the 1 hammer they had, which is sitting where you can see it right there. And then they're holding the middle with Red Skull for 2 victory points. Meaning as we go into round 3 with the Cabal going first, finally, it's 10 to the Avengers playing 7 to the Cabal. They've still got a chance. It just depends on if they can turn around the actual fighting this turn. So Enchantress got the Cabal's turn started for battle round 3, and she used her best attack, Enthrall, which is a 7 mystic attack, on poor Daredevil. Got 2 wilds through as well, which would have slowed and stunned, but it doesn't matter because it did 4 damage, so that is enough to stun him. He dropped his hammer, she picked it up, and then moved, and spent another power to pick up the hammer that Baron Zemo had dropped in the previous turn. So Enchantress is sitting on that back objective, so nice and safe, and has 2 hammers on her person. Hawkeye was up for the Avengers, and again, what he's been doing, he just stood still, fired his full quiver of arrows twice, this time both at Red Skull. Didn't do too well, and Red Skull kind of tanked it like a beast, didn't even need to use Hail Hydra to pass it off to Ultron. 2 damage, but he did get bled as well from 1 wild that got through. So he is bleeding, he took 2 damage, I think that's, yeah, he's 3 in total, so that's half health. He's got 3 health left, and it is over to either him, Ultron, Zemo, or Bullseye. Bullseye activated for the Cabal. He moved up medium, and then he spent 4 power on his best attack, Pincushion. It's a 5 physical attack, it automatically bleeds, and then you get a free secondary Pincushion attack. The first one on Ant-Man did 2 damage, the second did 3, so the bleed doesn't even matter. That is enough to stun him, or daze him, sorry. He dropped his hammer within 2, which was within 1 of Bullseye, and he spent 1 power to pick it up. He isn't necessarily going to live till the end of the turn, but he snatched back that hammer. So we're staying over this side. Captain Marvel activated. She spent 3 power on Rocket Punch, which is range 3, and she did 5 damage to Bullseye, which is exactly enough to remove Bullseye from the game. He dropped his hammer, and you'll notice it's still there. That's because she used everything she had to do that attack. She didn't have enough left to pick it up. So it's just sitting there, and then for her other action, she moved medium to contest the middle. Because Ultron is on his wounded side, that means Red Skull has to stay there to make it even, or the Avengers will capture it. Ultron can still go grab the hammer, of course, but he's on his wounded side. He doesn't quite have enough power yet to Age of Ultron, so it's dangerous. That seemed like the best bet in that situation. Ultron had a simple enough objective, had to stop the Avengers grabbing that hammer. He moved in medium, he flew over, grabbed it, and then flew back, slightly placed further back, just because he might want to flee even further with it next time. He had to spend a power to pick up the hammer, obviously. He's sitting on 6. That means if he gets attacked and damaged by anything that generates some power, and I don't think anyone here has an attack that doesn't generate him power. I think Ghost Rider is the only one that does do that. So he's going to have enough for Age of Ultron, but he has to drop objectives he's holding when you Age of Ultron and he becomes reborn. So the hammer can still be snatched off of him at a cost. Anyway, with that man dazed, I think it's just over to Captain America. Is it? Yeah, because Daredevil is dazed as well. Captain America, and then back over to Zemo and Red Skull. So for Captain America's activation, he moved up so that the two captains are leading the charge. He did a shield slam for his second action on Red Skull, which would have knocked him back, but it didn't need to. It did 3 damage. He has 3 on him, so he is stunned and will not be dazed, and will not be getting a turn this activation. So it means we're over to Zemo to end off battle round 3. So Zemo moved long for his first action, and then he initiated a charge, which is an action, and it's a move and attack combined together, and he had the power to spare to make it a steel rush. So he steel rushed Hawkeye within 3, so Hawkeye couldn't fast draw him. It only did 2 damage, which isn't too great, although it is half his health on his healthy side, I suppose. It also lets him move medium afterwards, so that's why he's positioned himself nicely in that corner there in case of any pushback. And he is contesting the back objective for the Avengers. That's because there was no way to counter this with him being dazed and Ultron being on his wounded side. The Avengers are getting that, so that's denying a point. And he's done some work on Hawkeye, and Hawkeye is still holding a hammer. Seems like the best bet. So that does take us to the cleanup phase. No one's taking damage from Gamma Shower, so it's just points. So this is actually becoming quite close, and I like when battles happen that way. You think they're going one way, then all of a sudden there's a swing, and then all of a sudden it's pretty even. The Avengers do not score their back objective, as previously explained, because Zemo's countering Hawkeye and Ant-Man is dazed. They are holding the middle though, so that's 2 points to the Avengers, and then they also currently hold 1 hammer. So they only generated 3 victory points that turn, taking them to 13. The Cabal, on the other hand, they hold their own objective at the back, their own Gamma Shelter, I should say, for 1 victory point. Enchantress has 2 hammers, 1 in each hand, and Ultron's holding on to the 3rd, so that gave them 4 victory points for the turn, taking them to 11. So as we go into battle round 5, is it now? With the Avengers going first, 13 plays 11, and both teams have the capability to win this round. So Ant-Man showed why he should not be trifled with that turn, especially when he's sitting on a lot of power. He opened his turn with BIM particles. Ant-Man or the Wasp, but Wasp isn't here obviously, can spend 2 to play this. Choose another allied character within 3, Hawkeye. Choose a terrain feature size 3 or less. The building here was size 3, or the ruin part here was size 3. Within 3, and throw it medium. Smacked burns him in the back of the head for 2 damage. Then he moved so that Hawkeye wouldn't be in his beam attack, which is Bullet Ant Barrage, and it did an astonishing 5 damage. Meaning that Baron Zemo is gone. It would have poisoned and stunned him as well, but that's irrelevant. Then he spent 1 power, because it's not an action to shrink, just to shrink, because that way he's harder to hit in case someone tries to pick him off defending this point here, depending on what happens with Hawkeye, so that might be important. Enchantress was up next for the Cabal, and she did another Enthrall on Daredevil, and it was a pretty good roll. So much so, he took a casual 7 damage, and as a result, he is gone. He was already on his day's side, he is gone. She then kind of repositioned slightly to help secure that backline objective, or rather their home objective I guess, for the Cabal. Hawkeye activated and has done what he's done the entire game. He stayed where he was and he fired 2 shots with his arrows at Ultron. 2 damage from the first shot plus shock because he's immune to bleed and something else, poison. And the second one whiffed. And then he spent 2 power down to 1 to hook arrow ever so slightly just to reposition to make it more awkward to retaliate against him or to attack him outside of 3 so he can counter it. So Red Skull activated, and first activation he did was unleash the cube on Captain America because you don't really want to use energy attacks on Captain Marvel. It was fully blocked. He did nothing, and what a waste of power that was. So instead of doing anything else, they can't stop them holding this middle objective because Cap and Captain Marvel are both on their healthy side. Red Skull is on his wounded side, so is Ultron. So he spent the other 3 power he had, forcing Ultron back by teleporting him within 2, which is exactly what he did. And he's just going to weather the blows. So there isn't much game left to play. Either of the captains get to activate, then Ultron does something back to them and we're done because everyone else is dead. Is there any plays to be made to get points? That's the important part. So to test the waters to see what is possible, Captain Marvel activated. She did 2 energy blasts, 4 energy attacks, she can reroll any misses. On Ultron, each one did exactly 1 health. That puts him 1 away from death, but he gets next activation, and then it's Cap to finish the game. Now he's free to move because Red Skull is on his wounded side, so Captain Marvel is holding that. He could technically try and hunt down Ultron, but Ultron just needs to run. Now, the other thing he can do, and would make a difference, is he could double move and get over here, and that would it would control the back objective there. So basically, what I'm saying is, no matter what Ultron does, beyond like going in suicide attacking somehow, he can't stop the Avengers winning. It's just a difference of like how much do you want them to win by. So we are going to end the game there. The two final moves, Ultron's just going to fly away over there somewhere, and then Cap is double moving there to contest, to control, because he is still healthy, and Enchantress is not. There was no way for the Cabal to get out of this particular situation happening, as far as I'm aware, once Zemo went down. Might be wrong, but that's the way it seemed. So that is going to take us to the final scores. So with that last turn played out, the Cabal have three hammers, because Ultron survived because he ran away like a girl. So he survived with his hammer. Enchantress survived with both of her hammers, meaning that they scored 3 victory points. They got none from the Gamma Showers, although I just realised, hang on, no they didn't, because Ultron isn't safe, so in the cleanup phase he would take the 1 damage to stun himself. So although he denied the Avengers grabbing the hammer he was holding, he did not score for holding the hammer because he died in the cleanup phase. So never mind. And even if he plays Age of Ultron to come back, he can't automatically just pick up the hammer. So yeah, never mind. They had 2 hammers on Enchantress and none of the 3 Gamma Showers, meaning their final score is 13, as opposed to the Avengers, who only have 1 hammer left in their possession, but they hold all 3. Those 2 obviously hold their own. Captain Marvel is healthy, Red Skull is not, so she takes priority and holds this one. Captain America is healthy, and Enchantress is not, meaning he takes priority there, putting them well above the 16 cap required to win, and leaving them at 20. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. That was a fun one. I like when it's close. Well, it didn't start close and it didn't end close, but there was that middle bit there where it looked like the Cabal were making a big comeback, and there was just so many ridiculously good dice rolls going in the Avengers' favour for the first 2 turns. It didn't feel fair at times. 4 damage here, 4 damage there, or 3 damage, whatever it was. Everything was just going their way. So many crits and so many poor defence rolls. Had those first 2 turns not been so heavily in the Avengers' favour, this would have been close for the whole thing, which would have been better, probably. But it was an entertaining one. I hope you agree and enjoyed watching. Please do remember to show your support if you'd like to see more in the future. The X-Men will be making their presence felt on the table as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Go check out the other battle reports if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.